What's up, guys? It's your boy Xander here, back with another video. And today we're here to talk about episode 5 of Justin Bieber's 10-part YouTube series, Seasons. So this episode is titled The Dark Season, and it is definitely one of the darker, more emotional episodes. It's the longest episode so far in the series. I think it's like 14 or 15 minutes. And this episode really gets into some really dark stuff. There's even a disclaimer in the beginning of the video. I will have to say it is the most emotionally jarring one of the episodes that I've seen so far, because it talks about, the dark part of Justin's life, the apex of his downfall, or his spiral. And so it was really, really eye-opening. So, there's a lot in this episode that I think a lot of people did not know. And they do a great job of just talking about it, so you kind of get to see what he went through. So the first thing I'll say about this episode revealed that Justin started dabbling in drugs early. So he was 13 when he first started smoking weed and things like that. And from that point on, he says that he, eventually felt dependent on it. And so that kind of started, I guess, the tunnel down into, the drugs, the drug use. And it's really, I don't want to say cool, but it puts things into perspective, seeing Justin Bieber sit and kind of talk about that and be open and be transparent about it. And I think that's one of the most important things, and one of the best things about this episode and this documentary in general. When superstars, people assume that they don't go through human things, and their experiences are different than our experiences because they're famous and successful. And in a lot of cases that can be true. But addiction is addiction. And I think one of the interesting things about this documentary is that they talk about his struggle with addiction. They talk about how, he's very transparent about it. They talk about how harmful it was. They talk about how, he says at one point that his team used to have to check on him at night because they thought he was dead. They thought he could be dead. And that is just crazy just to think about. So if you guys have been following Justin for a long time, a few years ago, he was in the news like every day for, different types of stuff. Speeding, recklessness, all types of things like that. And a lot of people were just thinking, this spoiled rich teenager he's rebelling. But a lot of people didn't know, I didn't know, that he was suffering from addiction. He was going through an addiction phase. And so this episode really puts things into perspective, and it kind of really shows you like, wow, he was going through some of the darkest times in his life. And this stuff was just all out and in the media, which is insane when you think about it. Justin Bieber is very open and honest in this episode. He talks about how, as a kid, he didn't get the tools he needed. He didn't get the tools or the lessons on how to be a team player and things like that. And so a lot of the experiences and a lot of the things that we learned from, as children, growing up, he didn't get to learn. And I think part of that is attributed to the fact that, his parents had a estranged relationship, but also he grew up in the public eye. So those crucial years where you develop and where you learn life lessons, it's a different thing entirely when you have to learn those lessons with millions of people watching. And so I think that could make it that much harder trying to learn those lessons. Perhaps one of the most jarring things to me was when Justin just flat out said, I felt like I was dying. That's just, it's crazy, to think about. To think that at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all these years, he is doing all of this stuff and you going out and trying to please the fans, but he's suffering. He's suffering. And that, it's insane. And I think I will say one of the best things about this episode, one of the best things about this series in general, is Hailey. Hailey Bieber is so wise and so smart. In this documentary, she drops a lot of good nuggets, and she basically talks about how people just don't understand, and how, he was going through so much, in the public eye, and how crazy that can be. And, she says that when he was going through the darkest parts of his addiction, for the most part, she was not there, and she had gotten into his life, or back into his life, when he had started, coming off the brink of it. And I think, the last episode was about Hailey and Justin, and their relationship together. And this episode just really, it reminds me of that episode because you really get to see how good Haley is for Justin. She's so wise. She's so, she has so much wisdom. At least that's what I'm getting from this series so far, and I just love that. But she really drops some good nuggets, and she says a lot of good stuff and stuff that rings so true. So that is probably one of my favorite things about the series. I'm so glad that they decided to include her, and I'm so glad that she, is touching on these things. And I'm really glad that Justin, is taking this step and being transparent about his addiction, because that can inspire lots of people who are struggling, and let them know that they're not alone. One of the things that I, want to say, one of the things that this documentary made me think of, is the fact that a lot of us, when we are going through stuff, the ideology is, dust yourself off, get back up, and go back at it. Put a Band-Aid on it, go back at it. And I think that is really dangerous, because sometimes it takes more than a Band-Aid. Sometimes it takes more than brushing yourself off. When you get knocked down, get back up. But when you get back up, go to the hospital if you need it. Go get therapy. Go get help. There's nothing wrong with going to get help. Life is too short, and you have to take care of yourself. We live in this world where the mentality is, just dust yourself off and try again, which, is great in theory. But before you try again, if you need help, go get it. Reach out to people. And I'm so glad that, you can see in this documentary that Justin's doing that. One of the things that it talks about in this documentary as well is that Justin Bieber, was diagnosed with Lyme disease. And so there were a lot of things that was affecting his body. There was a lot of things that are affecting his health, physically, mentally, emotionally. And it took a while for them to realize what it was. Not only does he have Lyme disease, but he also has mono. And so all of these things can affect you from the physical aspects all the way to your internal organs and things like that. And so they talk about how, he is finally at a place where he is getting healthy. Thankfully, these things, from what I've read, can be cured. And so he will be back to being 100%. But it's really important and really crucial to kind of see, that he's doing what needs to be done to get himself back healthy. Just because, the life that he lives, you have to be 100. And so I really appreciate the fact that this episode kind of delves into that. And you kind of get to see Bieber. They talk about the darkest parts of his life, but then they also talk about like him being on the road to recovery, and he's very transparent and open about that. So I really loved seeing that in this episode, and I am praying for Justin always. He's always been in my prayers ever since, for a while, but ever since he started talking about like trying to grow a relationship with God and things like that, I'm all about that. So he's been in my prayers. But let me know what you guys thought about this episode. I have premium, so I see the episode before the public sees it. Any premium subscriber can see it. But when you guys watch the episode, let me know down in the comments below what you think, and what has been your favorite episode so far. This is Xander. Like I always say, make sure you make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you guys know when I post new content. Bye, guys.